I run Engage Buy Sell. I started the company about 15 years ago, and we do everything that has to do with mobile technology. And Anna runs marketing here. And Sara is our guest speaker and really uses extensively AI and Chat GPT. Maybe the next slide, Anna and I will explain our company, and then Sara can explain her company. Our company can be boiled down into two different services. One is a text messaging service, which is two-way. And Anna later is going to show you how we've integrated Chat GPT into creating the text. So if you want to send a text to your employees or an audience, you can just kind of write your thoughts, hit create. It will create some beautiful text messages, and that can be your messaging platform. And then we have a mobile platform like you see here for training and for museums and workforce development and HR. So everything that has to do with mobile is what we are doing. All right. And a few of our clients are here. And then we'll go to Sara's.
So I'm Sara. I work for a company called Duct Tape Marketing. We've been in business for about 30 years now. I've been with the company for 13. We are a strategic marketing agency where we work with a range of small businesses on developing a marketing strategy. And then we typically move into a long-term retainer. It looks like Renee's read the Duct Tape Marketing book, so love to hear it. But we move into a long-term retainer engagement with our clients. And then we also license other marketing consultants, coaches, agency owners on our approach as well. So that's Duct Tape Marketing.
Fantastic. And we'll give you our contact info later, or there'll be a place to send us a message if you want the marketing book or you want to talk to Anna and I. So there'll be opportunities to do that. Let's kick it off, Sara. I think a lot of people are a little confused about chatbots, AI, Chat GPT. Are these robots? Give us the lay of the land here and just kind of help frame it from a bird's eye view.
Yeah, it's definitely a topic that a lot of people are talking about. It's a hot topic right now. And there's a lot of interest in this webinar being based on Chat GPT. So I love to see that people are warming up to it and getting more comfortable with using it at this point. But, essentially AI, like I said earlier, I'm going to make it as simple as possible. So hopefully everyone can understand. When I think of AI, it's essentially a machine's ability to perform cognitive tasks that we typically associate with humans. And so think about things like problem solving or creativity. Those are the types of tasks that AI is helping or being able to accomplish today. And so there's different types. There's all different types of AI, but one of the ones that we're going to be focusing on today is a chatbot. And a chatbot is essentially a program's ability to simulate a human type of conversation. And so think of a chatbot, one example that's been around a little bit longer than ChatGPT is when you go to someone's website and essentially you see like the little bubble in the bottom right-hand corner. In most cases, it's like, how can we help you? And you might go in there and ask a question and someone responds right away. That's not always a someone. Oftentimes that's an AI tool that's simulating a human type of conversation and hopefully being able to help you get the answers that you're looking for. And so next up, what is Chat GPT? It's essentially a chat bot, but I'm going to show you an example of how to use it because I think actually visualizing and seeing Chat GPT is a lot easier to explain it. But it's essentially a program that's been trained on a bunch of data to be able to provide value, answer questions, create new content, essentially. And so I'm going to actually steal over the control for a second and share my screen, if that's all right, and show kind of the back end of how an example of how you might be able to use Chat GPT. So then we can actually visualize it together. And so this is a look, I'm logged into Chat GPT right now, and I've put in what are called prompts. And so those are essentially the information that you would put into Chat GPT. So it basically generates responses based on what you put in. So that's what a prompt is. And so for the case of this webinar, I put in the prompt, what is AI? Just a simple example of a question you might ask ChatGPT. But the thing with ChatGPT is, it's not meant to just ask one question. It's meant to continue to train or build on the initial question that you might ask. And so I put in, what is AI? and it put out this definition. It gave me a description based on information it's been trained on in terms of this is what AI is. And then from there, I wanted to take it further and show you all an example of how you could take that and turn it into content, for example. And so I told ChatGPT to act like a marketing copywriter, write a blog post outline on the topic of what is AI. The target audience for this blog post is small businesses. I kept this kind of high level. You can get a lot more detailed in terms of like the target audience is this person and this demographic, and this is their pain points. But for the purpose of this, I was just keeping it fairly high level. But then you can see ChatGPT responded with, here's a potential blog post outline on the topic of what is AI for small businesses. So unleashing the power of AI, a guide for small businesses. And so it has, introduction, what is AI applications for small businesses, overcoming common misconceptions, and so forth. Conclusion. And then I took it even further and said, okay, now that we have our outline, act like a marketing copywriter. So I'm telling ChatGPT who to act like. And then I gave them a specific word count. So write a 750 word blog post based on the outline above. The tone should be helpful and informative. And so now it has the title and the blog post based on everything that it's been fed so far and given so far. And then after the blog post was created, meta description, it's important for SEO. I'm kind of getting technical in terms of marketing at this point, but I basically then asked it, so based on the blog post, write the metadata for the post above, because if you were going to go put it into WordPress, you would then put in the title tag, the meta description, and you could optimize the post for keywords when you do that. And so this is just kind of an example of ChatGPT. You can have all these different threads on different topics, but in this thread that's already going in terms of what AI is, it's learning about AI, it's learning about our target audiences. And so I would continue prompting it until I get the end result from there. So that is a look at AI that hopefully helps understand, how you can potentially use the tool. And we can go back to the slides.
Sasha has an interesting question. If you can pull up the chat window about how about building your questions? Can you put it all in one, or is it better to kind of build it as you're kind of like you're training the AI robot on what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, the more detailed, the better the prompts, the more information you can give it, the better. But when I'm doing something like a blog post, I like to start with let's learn about the topic. Okay, now let's outline it. You can even say, okay, here's some keywords I want to focus on, and then go to the blog post. Because let's say you talk about the topic and then you have it produce the outline, you might disagree with the outline and you want to change things around. And so it allows you to edit at each phase along the way, versus if I was to go in there and just say, write a blog post on the topic of what is AI for small businesses, it's just going to spit out whatever it spits out. And so it allows you to take it in steps and adjust as needed, because I might have gotten the outline and been like, I don't like this section, so I might have said remove this section and replace it with something on this topic. So it just allows you to work in chunks versus going all in from the beginning, if that makes sense.
Sara, to sign up for one of these chatbots, and Chat GPT is just one of a few, right, that people can use, but it seems to be getting a lot of publicity these days. How do people get an account, and is it free or do you pay?
There's free, and then there's a paid account. I don't remember the exact pricing right now. I signed up for the paid account a little while ago, but there's a free level, which I just recommend dabbling with, starting there. And I signed up for the paid account because the free level was having a lot of timeout issues, and now I don't have any with the paid account. I always can access it whenever I want to. Chat GPT is getting a lot of attention. It's pretty robust. It's also very affordable. There's other programs out there, like Sonic is one that we've used previously, and it's a lot more expensive to get started. So that's where I think it's gained a lot of popularity.
Yeah, and you log in, of course, like you did. Does Chat GPT start to know about me and what does it kind of start to know that I'm a marketing manager for a mid-sized company because all of my questions seem to be that way, or does it not build on my experience?
So it basically, I don't know if they're called threads or what they're called, but it will keep all of your previous prompting and discussions on the left sidebar once you log in. And so if you're having a conversation or giving it a lot of information on a specific topic like AI, like if I wanted to then go back to this thread and say, okay, now create social media posts on this blog post, I would just go back to this thread. Or if I wanted to start, or they're called chats, or if I wanted to start a new chat on a different topic, I would just start a new chat on the new topic. So it
Right.
does save all of your previous chats. And so you can go back and build off of them, or you can start a new one.
Right. Okay. We're getting lots of questions.
I
Keep
know.
the questions coming. Maybe we'll go to the next page and then we'll weave some of these questions in, but I keep them coming because this is so exciting. And of course, there's a lot of questions about Brian Hughes asked a question about, or was mentioning that his kids are not allowed to use it for term papers, and there's all kinds of copyrights. So maybe we'll save the legal, ethical part, moral part to the latter part of the discussion. But that's a big, something that we have to talk about today. But tell us, go through this is an interesting slide, I think.
Yeah, and hopefully, some of the questions that come in we'll answer through the conversations that we're having. But I definitely will keep an eye on the chat as well. I think this is how if I think of Chat GPT, how do I use it? I think of it as an assistant. So it can help me move faster on things. But as a marketer, as a COO in the operations role, it's not replacing anything that I'm doing. It's helping me move faster on things. I'm also not expecting Chat GPT to get me 100% there on anything. If it can get me 80% there, then that's a huge win. And so that example that I shared in terms of what is AI, turn this into a blog post outline, turn this into a blog post. I would never take that and then paste it on our website and say, done. With ChatGPT, it's a great tool to help you move faster on something like that. But then a human needs to edit it from there, and a human needs to confirm that it's 100% accurate as well. And so that's where it can help me move faster in terms of creating content, especially content that I'm already an expert on. But then I still need to finalize it, put it in our tone of voice, check for accuracies before I would ever publish it on our website. And so just think of it as an assistant where it can get you there. And that's really, the biggest thing that I keep in mind and what we've touched on here. There's also strengths and weaknesses. And so I always think of, if I'm working on a new task, I'm like, could ChatGPT help me with this? I go to ChatGPT. And so for an example, if I'm creating a new sales presentation, I simply would I would go to ChatGPT, I would put in the prompts that I want to, I would see what it would output. And if it's helping me, I would continue to lean into it and go further. If it's just putting out stuff that's distracting me and not helping me, and maybe that's a weakness or I'm not using it correctly, I'll move on and go, to how I would create a PowerPoint presentation before ChatGPT. And so I think that's the biggest thing is keep in mind, can it get you most of the way there? Is it being helpful? And also in the assistant role, if you had a human assistant, you have to help mentor someone. You have to help give them information. You have to help feed them insights that will help them do their job better. And so if you think about ChatGPT as an assistant in that way of you have to help them to do their work, it helps you kind of wrap your head around what type of information you might need to give ChatGPT to output what you're hoping to get.
Sasha had another great question, Sarah, about what sources is it using? And it's probably a hard question to answer because it could be looking at thousands of sources.
Yeah, so ChatGPT has been trained on thousands of sources of different kinds. And so, websites, blog posts, books, ebooks, just different sources, essentially. And so it pulls from all of those sources. But if you're in there, it even says at the very bottom, I'm reading it right now on my screen, ChatGPT may produce inaccurate information about people, places, or facts. And so they're claiming that it's not always 100% correct because it's a new tool. It's being developed rapidly. It's always things are changing so fast. So even though I feel like I know a decent amount about ChatGPT at this point, I still am learning something every time I have a conversation about it. And so that's where it's like, I lean on it more on topics that I know a lot about. And so, for example, I was writing a sales presentation on how to train people on selling, because I do a lot of training on selling. And so ChatGPT helped me create the presentation a lot faster because I already knew what I wanted to say, but it got me there a lot faster. Where if I was going to use it to, because we're in marketing, if I was going to use it to write about one of my clients that's, an HVAC contractor, and it was like a technical post on something I don't know about, I would help me produce the content and outline, but I would fact check everything that it put out, just to make sure, because I'm not an expert on that specific topic, just to make sure it's accurate. So that's definitely one big hesitation of people with ChatGPT, is you do have to double check things, but it still is making you move, or helping you move a lot faster, especially if it's helping you produce stuff that you consider yourself an expert on.
And the Googles of the world are obviously a little concerned, because in a way, this is 10 times more inclusive and exciting and comprehensive than a Google search. Now, of course, a Google search, you need to always check the sources, but you can't really ask Google to come up with a plan for teenagers that's 100 words about how to spend the summer.
Yeah.
And so this is going to kind of just blow up the way we think of search, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good way, or a good way to like explain how it's different is with like Google search, you would maybe like type in a plan for teenagers during the summer, and you get a bunch of resources that it can find that you then have to sort through. But then you also can't prompt it more. So you can't say, take this plan and break it out month by month, so I know what they should be doing in May, June, and July, and adopt the plan so it's focused on 15-year-olds who love being outside. And so it just allows you to have more of a conversation with a tool versus Google search. You put in information, it spits out result.
Yep. Right. Or a plan. I mean, imagine this, everybody, Sarah's concept about, this plan for May, June, July, and now make it specific to Houston, Texas. And then it would go find everything that's available for teens, 15s, in May, June, and July, and develop a plan. I mean, it's kind of mind blowing when you start to think about the power of it. Anyway.
I also at times will give ChatGPT sources, so you can put in a link. When I first started using it, I kind of wanted to see how accurate it was. So I asked it to do an analysis, a competitive analysis, I think, on search words for engage by sell. And then I put our URL in, and it was so accurate, mainly because I gave it the source to work off of. Someone asked a question about using it to write a policy document, using other policy documents. You can definitely do that by pasting a link in there and then saying, write it in this tone for this company.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the slides we'll get to goes into like the prompts and some best practices around that. But I think just a really great rule of thumb is the more information you provide on the front end, the better the output you're going to get on the back end. So like, don't ever feel like you're giving it too much. Continue to give it all the information you need, and you'll get that better end result. And I think that's the struggling point when people first getting started is you might put in there just like write a blog post on this topic and it's terrible. So you have to have the front end prompts essentially to help. And so, the goals with ChatGPT right now, essentially working smarter and not harder. AI can be used in all areas of business, I believe, at this point. We use it very heavily in marketing. We're a marketing agency. And so anything from like creating an initial marketing strategy to creating content, to repurposing content, those are all marketing examples. I'm in sales in our company. There's a lot you can do in sales in terms of, let's say you're getting on a sales call with someone you've never talked to before from a business. You can literally say like, I'm talking to someone in this industry in this role, and they're looking to hire us for marketing services. What are their most common pain points and what are their most common goals? And it just helps you give some background information on how to prepare for a sales call, which is really helpful. Customer support is a great way you can use AI in terms of, someone mentioned earlier, like they use AI for writing all of their emails. I've seen the customer support teams just putting in like ChatGPT, like you can literally paste an email in there and say, you know, act as a customer service rep for your company, your type of company, and write a professional response to this email. And it will generate a professional response to the email. My husband jokes that he's not a great written communicator, so he'll just like throw stuff into Chat GPT and like say, make this sound better. He says, make it sound more professional. And it like creates ththese responses that he wouldn't naturally be able to write on his own because he isn't a great writer. So it just helps you improve in certain areas as well. And there's also other areas you can use for operations. We shared as part of this webinar 158 prompts. And you'll see if you have a copy of that spreadsheet, there's tabs or there's different categories. And so there's a bunch of examples of how you can use prompts in all these areas that are listed on this slide. And I think we get into finance as well, a little bit on that spreadsheet. But a lot of it, you know, it comes right now. I think a lot of the benefit, especially in like the marketing and sales role, is more efficient content creation. It helps with better messaging and conversion strategies because you can learn more about your clients that you're interacting with. And I know a few people mentioned earlier on that they're in HR. It helps with hiring as well because it can help you do things in terms of like writing job descriptions based on your values. And then when people are hiring, you can analyze resumes based on the job description and you can sort through them faster. It can help you create questions for your interviews that you're actually conducting. So that's just another example. Again, you know, think about it. What is your role? What are you doing on a regular basis? Could you use ChatGPT to assist you like you would an assistant to move faster on these things? Should ultimately be the goal in terms of how you approach it.
And things like policy manuals, HR manuals, training documents. We have a lot of workforce development folks that are interested in helping job seekers to create kind of strategy guides for job seekers in a certain city would be fabulous for that.
Yep.
Just fabulous. Okay.
And so I already touched on this, and I think we already, looks like there's another pull up, but we already touched on this in terms of different departments. Again, it just comes down to what are you focusing on? How can it support you to move faster? But do we want to launch the poll right now, it looks like, as well?
Maybe take 10 seconds, everybody, and check
So
the boxes that make sense to you.
Yeah.
I will also send out there's 2 documents from Duct Tape Marketing. There's a guide to prompts, and then there's 158 prompts. We'll send those out as well after the session.
Yeah, those are fabulous. I like the final one. I have a new AI bot friend that will respond to me.
All right, the results are in.
20% of you need a new friend, so that's the robot at the bottom. Emails and copy, yeah.
I love to see it though. I mean, this is a great range. I mean, email and copy, not surprising that those are the highest couple, but you know, complicated concepts, strategic research, sales and customers, people are across all areas. So that's great.
Sara, talk a little bit about, well, you can end the poll, Anna, talk a little bit about framing complicated concepts. So let's take an HR manager that is that's wrestling with attrition or something, you know, something that's not so easy, but probably a lot of people are wrestling with the same kind of issue. And there's probably 100 Harvard Business Review articles and journals. How can you use this not to help you write something, but to think through complicated topics and boil it down to something that you can really learn from?
Yeah, I mean, I think just asking the questions that you would ask to help solve the problems, depending on what your problem is specifically. And so, you know, an example is attrition. Like a lot of people have, you know, trouble with retention these days. And so just doing some research in Chat GPT in terms of like, what are common challenges with retention in my agency? What are solutions that people are putting into place? And just kind of continuing, like there's no script specifically, because it's kind of dependent on what your problem is, but just asking it the questions and continuing to evolve the questions depending on what it's spitting out, essentially.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right.
So here's some example use cases of AI. Like we've talked about a couple times, you're going to get a prompt spreadsheet that has a lot more. But these are some of the most common ways I'm using it today, and a lot of people are using it today, is creating content. So like the example we shared earlier in terms of like blog post outline, write the blog post, on-page SEO is another example. And so that's the meta description information. You can ask for like title tag and description for pages and posts. That's really helpful, especially if you don't have a ton of experience in SEO.
Very.
Repurposing content is really great. And so you could put in a blog post, for example, and create a bunch of social media posts based on the blog post content. And then you can schedule those out. So social media is taken off of your plate a little bit. You could like transcribe this webinar and then put it into Chat GPT and produce blog content from it, emails from it, social media posts from it. And so we've always been big on like, don't just do content once. How can you reuse it time after time? And Chat GPT is a great solution to help you move faster on stuff like that. I talked earlier about preparing for a sales call. So just helping with like the research before you actually get on a sales call, or even, if you're selling something new, like what types of questions should I be asking these types of prospects? I think that's really helpful. Reviewing job applications, we've talked about that. Writing processes. And so just, going back to marketing, like we were building a bunch of processes a while back, and it was, how do you effectively write a process for importing a blog post in WordPress? And it will essentially like write the process. We'll then tweak it a bit. Remember the 80% there, but it will take a lot of the heavy lifting of like actually writing the process out off of your plate, which is nice. You can do a lot in terms of marketing strategy research. And so learning about persona information, learning about messaging information for your business, learning about like customer journey for your industry. There's a lot. And actually one of the spreadsheets we're sending out is all about how to create a marketing strategy using Chat GPT. Not a final one, but it will help you move faster on it. There's a lot. We talked about customer support and communication. Writing emails is really big there. Scheduling your day out. I haven't actually, I'm a very scheduled person. That's me. So I haven't used it for this yet, but I've heard people will literally put in there like, these are all the things I need to do today. I want to do them between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Create a schedule so I can get them all done. I think that's kind of cool if you struggle with scheduling. I talked about outlining presentations. I think it's really helpful. Like, create a sales presentation for this audience on this topic, include these things. It can help you create an outline for a presentation. And then I just threw this one in for fun, creating a recipe, because you can also use it in personal life as well. But you could essentially say, I have these 3 ingredients in my fridge, create a dinner recipe, and it will create a recipe for you, which is kind of fun if you struggle with creativity.
With a Greek influence, right, Sarah? I mean, you can get as specific as you wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
Nancy asked a question, Sarah, how do you use AI for on-page SEO?
And so you can put in the content, like you could paste in the content, and you can write like optimize this content based on these keywords, for example, and it will help rewrite the content to incorporate the keywords you're trying to focus on. And you can say like, write a title for this page and write a meta description for this page. And then you basically go into WordPress and update those things based on the suggestions.
Okay.
So a lot of it comes down to training, giving it more information. We've talked about some of these things, but these are just some of the best practices I've found. Define a specific role. And so you can say, act like a marketing assistant, act like a copywriter, act like a sales assistant, act like it, you can tell it what to act like, and it will step into that role, essentially. You can also define a specific persona. And so hopefully you've all done some persona work, some ideal client work. You understand who you're targeting. You can literally put all of that information into Chat GPT. And so you could literally say, okay, I want to write a sales email coming from this business, talking about this service, and here's my ideal client. And you can say, demographics, where they live, what are their pain points? What are they trying to accomplish? What does success look like to them? Like if you give it all of that information and then say, and write an email that is, whatever amount of words that's in a persuasive but helpful tone, you're going to get the output that's a lot more consistent with how you would have written it versus if you're like, write a sales email selling this product. It's going to be a lot more broad, essentially, because it doesn't know what you're thinking or needing at that point. And so that's where like everything that I do in Chat GPT, I always tell Chat GPT like who we're writing to, like what's the persona, what's the target market. And so that's just a basic rule that I incorporate in all of it. I actually came across, someone gave me this advice recently that I love, is you can basically say, I want to write a sales email to this audience and here's the target market. So again, the same approach that I just said. And then you can tell Chat GPT to ask me 20 questions that you need the answer to in order to write that sales copy. And then Chat GPT will generate questions to ask you. You'll answer the questions and then it will write the sales copy because it has the information it needs. And then it saves it all in one like chat. And so let's say you've already trained it on that topic. You could then come back to that chat and write another email without having to go through the 20 questions again. Be specific on length of copy. This one's really big. If you have a range of content you want, like so 750 word blog post, put that in there. It loosely follows, but if you don't give it the range, it's all over the place, I've found. Ask it follow-up questions. So don't ever I've never just taken something that it spit out and ran with it. And so it's, asking for the outline, and then it's asking for the post, and then it's asking for the SEO content. So it's like, continue to prompt it until you get what you need. You can direct it to mimic a style. And so, like I said earlier, you can say friendly, you can say informative. Our CEO has written a lot of content to this point. He's written a bunch of books, podcasts, all this stuff. And so I can literally say, write in the tone of John Jantz, which is his name, and it will produce content in the tone of John Jantz, which blows my mind that it can do that level of detail because it sounds like him when I read it. And then they've actually added a button now. But before you had to, I just noticed the button, before you had to say, keep going. So sometimes it would just like stop mid content that it was producing. And if you just put the prompt in, keep going, it will continue on. But now there's a button that just says like, keep generating content essentially, but you can continue to have it producing essentially from there. So those are just some kind of like best practices in terms of like training it.
Yeah, that's great. Sarah, in the chat window, while you were talking, there were some excellent questions. Can Chat GPT help with photos and images?
I think there's a plugin for Chat GPT with photos and images at this point. But I've just used, there's a lot of other programs out there that are focusing on images specifically. And so we use one called Right Sonic that also does content production and stuff, but we've used that for images. I will say with the images that just from my personal experience, they're hit or miss at this point. I feel like you can either get something that's great or it's just like completely left field from what you were asking for. But I'm not, I think there's a plugin for images. Right. I haven't used it specifically for images though, to be honest.
I listened to an NPR story and there's another company coming out, international company, where you can create a video. So it might be, give me a 30-second video of 5 people fishing for trout on a Colorado stream. And it's going to generate your 30-second video like that. Same thing with music.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool video and music tools out there. I guess I forget what it's called, but someone on my team was telling me there's a tool for music that you can like put a song in and ask a different band to play the song and it will produce the song played by like a different band or something like that. So it's just all evolving so fast. But yeah, especially like ChatGPT, I think of mainly for like content production, research, a lot of stuff we're talking about today, but there's a whole set of tools for images, video, music as well that's coming.
What about Gail's question? If I ask a question and you ask a question, are we going to get the same copy?
Sorry, I don't see the question.
Will it create the exact copy to someone else as well as you? So I ask a question about trout fishing. Will you get the same answer I got?
Yeah, I think for the most part, but that's where it comes down to the prompts. Like hopefully you're putting in enough information so it's not just spitting out the same thing. But if you put in the question like I did, what is AI? You're going to get the same response. But if you put in what is AI and explain it to a kindergarten class, you're going to get a different response. And so it just comes down to, again, what I've said a bunch is the more information you give in the beginning, the more crafted it is going to be and the more unique to your question it is going to be.
Quite a few questions about Excel spreadsheets. Do you know much about AI and Excel spreadsheets?
I've dabbled in it, but there's a lot of people doing really cool things. I've seen there's this dashboard that I've used a bit where it's called the brand dashboard. And so essentially it's built in Excel, it's integrated with GPT where you put in the information in Excel, it pulls the information from GPT and builds out this dashboard on a brand for a business. So there's definitely an integration there. And I think, you know, you could even create them specific to your business in terms of what you're trying to accomplish. But yeah, really, people are doing some really cool stuff with that.
All right, Anna, where are we? We're getting near the end of our time here.
I know. Oh, I think that's my last slide. So it's over to you.
All right. Go ahead, Sarah here.
This is about how actually engage by SEO.
Oh, go ahead then, Anna.
Utilize Chat GPT. So as Dave mentioned earlier, we provide a text messaging platform and a mobile web app platform. So we're kind of experts on the content delivery, but we have never actually provided a way to generate the content for our clients. So we've kind of come out with the first iteration of that, which started as we have clients in several industries who want templates for text message campaigns, or maybe you're just having trouble phrasing something correctly, want to look at examples of text messages. And I was actually using Chat GPT to write out all these templates for me. And I was thinking of all these use cases. And we were finally like, well, why don't we just tie the tool to Chat GPT so any client with any need and any tone of voice can type it in and immediately get answers. So that up. Okay, so this is our text messaging platform here. We have right above where you compose a text message, we've linked Chat GPT. And you can give it any prompt you'd like, but as Sarah has said, you want to be as specific as possible. So here I have write a series of short text messages to employees about a new self-care course we offer that features new guest speakers every week. I send that off.
It's amazing how fast the responses are as well when you think of the amount of computing power going on here.
Okay, and it's given me all of these short little text messages. And I really want to use this each week. You'll hear from a new guest speaker. I insert it into my text. Then I would definitely go in and tweak it according to who the guest speaker is. Maybe you want to change the tone of voice, whatever you'd like to do according to that. And it's an awesome tool to kind of help with draft one. You may think a text message is so short form, who would need help writing that? Everyone does. We get questions all the time. And it's just kind of, the first draft is the hardest one to start with copy, with emails, with text, with any type of content really. So it's an awesome tool for any use case really.
Well, you know, especially Anna, when you're trying to start a text messaging campaign, it's not something that most people on this call have thought of doing. To write in 160 characters in short, concise little bites and to just do what you did, I think it's going to really expand the use of texting. Valerie, one of our clients from the Department of Labor in Tennessee, was commenting this is going to help her. And I'm sure that's the truth because you have all these initiatives you're trying to think of and how do I get the word out? And here you kind of type your thoughts, and then AI comes up with some great answers. Any more? Where are we with slides? Okay, Q&A. We answered maybe a third of your questions. If there are some more questions, everybody, that we didn't answer, one of the questions, Sarah, that I saw 3 or 4 times was, is it true that Chat GPT stopped accumulating new information since 2021? Have you heard that?
Yes, and it is true as of now, but I think they're working on updating so we'll be able to access relevant, up-to-date information. And I know there's a couple of competitors, like Google is launching one, I've heard, and Microsoft as well, that should be able to access up-to-date information. So yes, today that is true. And so that is where, like, on, just to give an example, like, I wouldn't use ChatGPT for like the most up-to-date keyword research per se, because it's not accessing information today. It's accessing up to 2021. Or if you're trying to learn about a topic or event that's happened in the last year or so, it's not gonna be able to pull from that information. So it definitely is limited, but as long as you have that knowledge at this point, I think it's still a really solid tool. And also, I do think that is going to change in the near future.
And it just, I mean, this version came out when? Last year, I think, of Chat GPT. And it's already, I mean, as accurate as it is. So
yeah, and it's evolving very quickly. It's going to continue to evolve very quickly.
And Cody's got a response here too, Sarah, about using Bing for the paid version.
For the beta, it looks like the beta version. Yeah, so it's getting there, I would say.
Sarah, what about Dale's question right above, which is a great question? How do we train it to not give me the path that they went down, but something else? So it's kind of the double negative. Is there a way to
train it on what has worked in the past, or has it worked? So what it gives us what most likely. I don't know if I fully understand that question.
Well, if it's giving me stuff that's really not, they didn't do a very good job, how can I tell Chat GPT that's not what I want?
Yeah. So if you're just not getting the output that you're hoping for, I usually then just start a new chat and start over. Or you can ask it to tweak it, essentially. So like if it gives you something that you want to edit, not necessarily start over, you can tell it how to edit it. And so like, let's say it gives you a really long blog post and you can say, I want this to be bullet points instead of a long paragraph. You can adjust it. But if it's just not giving you like anything that's working, I would start a new chat with a new prompt, because it comes down to what you asked it to begin with in most cases.
Ryan asked in the Q&A, does it help find phone numbers and contacts? Do you know if it can actually give you, can it say, find Dave Asheim's email or phone number?
I wouldn't be surprised, but that's not something I've tried.
But
and
you're
also
probably
with,
right.
With it not having information past 2021, like I probably wouldn't use it as a very accurate, up-to-date source for something like finding contact information. If it can, would be my hesitancy there.
Few more questions. I think Diane's got a question. Why does it not have info? I'm guessing it's just because it took a long time to develop this, and when it was being developed, it had a starting point, and that was the 2021, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting into, I'm sure if it was an easy solution, they would have had it figured out by now. Right. I don't know the whole technical elements behind it, but I'm guessing it was just they were trying to train it on the information up to a certain point, and will continue to evolve. But honestly, I don't know the specifics behind it.
A few people asked, Sarah, should we use just Chat GPT or should we use different chatbots?
There's a lot to learn. So I think it comes down to your personality. So I like Chat GPT for a lot of stuff, but we also have one, we use one called WriteSonic. There's a number of them out there that I like more for like image creation. We use a different one for like editing videos. So in editing podcasts, we use a different one. So I think it just comes down to like finding the one that makes the most sense for you for the task you're trying to accomplish, and somewhat sticking to it as if you can, because like I've said, this is all moving so fast. And so if you're trying to use 3 different tools to accomplish one goal, it's almost impossible to, I think, keep up with. And so I think of like, what am I trying to accomplish? Okay, I'm going to stick with Chat GPT for content creation. Okay, I'm going to stick with Descript for podcast editing because that's the best one we've found. I'm going to stick with this one for video editing. So it's sticking with ones that are working for you. I think it's the most or the least overwhelming way to approach it.
The question or the comment from Amy is a really good one about what kinds of regulations are coming, and there's all kinds of privacy and individual concerns about copyright, as well as some of the things that Amy mentioned regarding ethics. This is going to be a really complicated topic in the next few years as it becomes so widespread, don't you think?
Yeah, and I think it's a topic of that we all should be paying attention to and having conversations around. But like that conversation is now trying to catch up with everything that's evolving from a technology standpoint. So it's like it's all happening at once, and so it's hard to predict I think it's hard to predict exactly what's going to happen. But in terms of like how I approach it, like I said, if it's going to produce content from me, like I'm never just going to take it as is and paste it. I'm going to have it get me a head start. I'm still going to edit it, rewrite it, move things around, make it sound like me before I would publish it. And so it's just helping me with like the research and getting started in a blog post, for example. And I'm not necessarily then taking it and posting it as is, which to me that helps with this topic a bit.
Christina asked the question, can it point towards a manual or some guide that you've got and then create training content from your personal information? I'm guessing it's probably not developed and designed to do that.
On something like that, I would like, if it's not too much work, is like I would just post like the guide or whatever you're trying to create stuff off of right in Chat GPT. And so let's say you have like a huge section on some topic and you want to turn it into like questions or a quiz on that topic or process or a checklist on that topic or whatever you're trying to do. Like I would actually paste the content into GPT and then ask it what to do with that content.
Simplify it, make it easier, shorten it.
Yeah.
Kind of is it possible to figure out if copy is written by Chat GPT?
There's checkers out there in terms of like plagiarism and Chat GPT. I haven't played with those as much at this point, but I'm sure some of them are able to tell if it's coming from Chat GPT. But again, like if I was just going to say, what is AI? And then I posted that on my website, like that would be very easy to identify. But if I was like, what is AI? Turn this into a blog post, change this section, rewrite it with these keywords. Like it's you're personalizing it a little bit more, I would say.
It's going to make it tough for teachers, college professors to figure out whether the answers are coming from AI or not AI.
Yeah.
If any of you folks would like some more information from Sara or from Anna and I, other than just kind of the general slides that we'll be sending you, why don't you go ahead in the chat window, pick hosts and panelists, and then just include your name and email, and we'll get those over to Sara and we'll get those over to Anna. So if any of you are interested in kind of the text messaging that Anna's been talking about, or want to chat with Sara, this is a great time to just make a note in the chat window, and we'll get that information over to Sara and Anna. Well, we are kind of out of time, but I want to thank Sara for all of her hard work here and the work and research that she's been doing, as well as all of you that have sat through this for the last hour. And hopefully you learned a little something about AI and how it can help you in your organization, or even get organized in your personal life, I guess, or make a Greek orzo recipe, I guess. So, all of that.
Now I'm hungry.
Any final words of wisdom, Sara, as we kind of wrap up here?
No, I would just say, take your time. If you haven't you haven't dabbled in the world of AI yet, move slowly, read what you can online.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great resources out there. So I would just say move forward and start small, and you'll continue to get more comfortable with it with the more practice you have.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we'll stay on if you want to write your name or email in the chat window here. And thank you very much. And we'll probably get information out probably tomorrow, right, Anna?
Correct. Yeah, I'll send all these resources, the prompt guides, the recording, and these slides over tomorrow.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks so much. And we'll be here if anybody has some final questions. We'll stick around for a few minutes. But in the meantime, thanks for participating today. Great. And we'll see
everyone.
Sarah. Yeah, we'll see Sarah if we get any more questions, but fantastic questions. Sure is complicated in terms of the use cases and where it's going and the ethics and the legal and but it's also so powerful. It's just until people use something like this, they don't realize when you can ask for tone and the length and the resources, and there it comes. It's
I think the first step is understanding like the how you could potentially use it to solve your specific problems, and that's what people have to wrap their heads around first to be able to get value out of it.
Yeah, exactly right. All right, thanks, Christina. Thanks, Mary Beth. Fantastic. All right, thanks, Corey. Glad you learned something. Anybody else, go ahead and put your email in as we are signing off. And then we'll provide this to you tonight or tomorrow, Sarah.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Petra. Interesting that only 10%, Sarah, were really active users.
Yes.
I bet that changes in 12 months to 20, 30, 40% maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, people are either not quite using it, a little hesitant, or they're all in. So I think it just takes time. I mean, as a marketer, even I'm always learning about these tools, and I was hesitant in the beginning. I'm like, what is this? And so it does. There's a hurdle to get over.
And like you said, the more you use it, the more you start to ask it questions and realize that it's a robot. So you can ask it anything.
It's just like anything. Like the first time I hired an assistant, I was terrible at managing that person because it just you got to figure out how to manage, how to use, how to give information. And it's kind of the same concept. I think of ChatGPT in the same way. It's like you have to learn how to help it help you.
Yeah, I think that's right. Well, I think we've run to the end. So thank you, everybody. And we'll shut off the session and we'll email everybody tomorrow. Thanks, Anna. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye.
Bye.